All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Dids in the Dugout. Joined here by my buddies Chad and Hitch, and today we're going to hit a few different topics here, from Lane Kiffin to us getting to the Peach Bowl, NIL, all kind of different things, transfer portal. But before we jump into that, I want to let y'all know once again about the Rhythm app. That's what we all use to try to gain an edge in all of our sports betting needs, whether it be college basketball, NBA, NFL. Even, you got a little bit of college football still going on. Got Army and Navy this weekend. Then we get bowl games, right? So,
Mhm.
if y'all haven't tried them out yet, go look them up. Just go to the App Store, type in RITHMM, and download their app. You get a 14-day free trial when you sign up, and you can build all kinds of different models, up to 3 per sport, in any sport that's going on right now. Like I said, right now it's real big in NFL, college basketball, and NBA. So y'all go download the Rhythm app, get your 14-day free trial, and turn your gambling year around here. So y'all go give that a shot. It's been really helpful for us, and we really appreciate them sponsoring the show throughout the year for us. So we'll go ahead and dive into this a little bit. First of all, Chad, Hitch, how y'all doing today?
Good. Doing a lot better than Florida State is right now.
Already.
Well, I mean, the last time we talked, we were all speculating, explaining why we thought something was going to happen. And you and I were both wrong. They had the gall and the audacity to leave Florida State out, which I'm still stunned by. But other than that, I'm doing well, man.
We were pretty heavy on that train too. Like just absolutely no way they can leave them out, and I'll be damned if they did.
I think y'all were so heavy on it, you convinced me. Like, I don't remember exactly which side of it I was on, but I know which side of it I'm on now. And I mean, y'all convinced me that Florida State deserved that spot, and I was shocked. Like, I was very surprised.
I was too. Now, granted, I'm excited to watch Michigan and Alabama. I think it's going to be the better game. Don't get me wrong. I'm excited for that from a fan perspective, but the Seminoles got screwed.
Yeah, no, I'm on the side of Florida State got screwed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like we were talking about it in one of our chat or one of our texts with some other people, and somebody brought up the point, is like, we're not talking about Boise State going undefeated, here out in the Mountain West, and what, like, this is a team that went 12-0, won the 13-0, won the ACC. I meant to bring it with me here, but I forgot. But there was somebody posted something about all of the accomplishments that Florida State had this year. I mean, they've had X number of top 25 wins and all of this stuff. And man, if anything, it just shows the tenacity and them deserving that game because they won 2 games without their starting quarterback. They won another game without their second string quarterback. So what does that say about a team? That says the team is very good. It's not just on the shoulders of one person.
Now, and kind of a few things that I have a problem with on top of them going undefeated in a power conference and not getting in. First of all, what the committee told us was the ACC is no longer a power conference. You can't go undefeated in a quote-unquote power conference and get left out to 2 teams that each had a loss in another quote-unquote power conference, and they'll jump you. So they completely disregard the ACC altogether. But I really had a problem with them putting Liberty in the New Year or the New Year 6 because they went undefeated. Their schedule strength was dead last in the entire country. They played nobody all year, and they ran through it. The biggest game they played was that New Mexico State game in the conference championship. So they can't use strength of schedule. So everybody kept talking about Florida State strength of schedule being 55 and how poor that was for a conference champion. But they rewarded Liberty. Tulane and SMU were both more deserving than Liberty to get that New Year's 6 bowl bid there. And also on top of that, if Jordan Travis was such a big loss for Florida State, and that's the reason they're not playing in the playoff, why hadn't he one of the 4 guys going to New York for the Heisman Trophy?
Right. Yeah, exactly. I was semi-joking when I said this in one of our group chats, last week. What's the incentive now for teams that are in the mix to be truthful about injuries, right? If I'm going to be so penalized because a guy's out especially out for the year.
Yeah.
Why can't I, he's day to day. He'll be back.
That's it. Just keep running it that way, right? I mean, because unlike the NFL, college football doesn't have a rule with injuries where you have to disclose what it is and how long they're going to be out when you find out.
Right.
You can sit there and you can run that sucker week to week, just like you said. And on top of that, they ended up beating 2 SEC teams. Now, Florida's not what they usually were this year, obviously, but they had to go to Gainesville with that second string quarterback. And they got the job done in the Swamp. And then LSU against who I think is the Heisman winner, Jalen Daniels. I mean, he's been incredible all year. But they beat 2 SEC teams on top of running through the ACC. I just think it's a travesty. They got left out. Did they get the 4 best teams in there?
Yep.
That's arguable. I think probably so. Now, if you want to have a debate, now Georgia would probably beat the shit out of Washington. If you want to have that discussion, fine. But you aren't going to leave out 2 power conferences. But if that's what they were looking for, that's another argument you could have that, who's better, Georgia or Washington? Because I think everybody would agree Georgia would probably run through Washington. That's the way I feel, at least. I don't know how y'all feel about it. But Alabama is better than Florida State at this point in the way things are constructed. I have no issue with that. I just think you have to give Florida State the opportunity to prove that they're more than one player. And the committee just didn't give them that option.
And they're in a can't win situation, right? Because if they lose the Orange Bowl to Georgia, they didn't belong in the playoff. And if they win, Georgia wasn't motivated.
Georgia wasn't interested, right?
Right. They can't win.
Yeah, no, if I'm Florida State, there's not a game. Like
I would love that.
I'm agent of chaos.
That'd be so much fun
now.
I wouldn't even tell anybody about it. I would just literally not show up.
One of 2 things, right? Like I don't show up. I act like I'm showing up and I don't. Or I show up and every offensive play I take a knee. Every defensive play I have my defensive player sit down and let them score a touchdown every play until they stop the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I make a point, like
that it's bullshit.
Right? Yeah. Like I'm not going to take it laying down either. Like I'm not going to just be like, oh well, shoot, I guess we didn't get it in the last year. Next year would have been great because that's the playoff. Like I know that I can't change it, but everybody is going to know that it's BS.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we stand on the college football playoffs now that all shook out.
Hey, what about Liberty, Oregon, right?
Yeah, Fiesta Bowl.
That'd be fun.
If Oregon's motivated, that's going to end up being a bloodbath.
Yes, it will be.
Liberty is not good enough to play against a team of that caliber.
No.
So, but anyway, that's kind of how we see the college football playoffs and how that ended up shaking out. Since we did talk about it last week, also appreciate everybody tuning in last week. That was a good show for us. So hopefully y'all enjoy our quote unquote off-season content from football. Right, we're going to be transforming into a little bit of basketball and baseball coming up in the next few months, but we still got some bowl season, some interesting things to talk about. One of the things I had written down here that I think should be celebrated amongst all Ole Miss fans this past Thursday, December 7th, was the 4-year anniversary of hiring Lane Kiffin. And, what an incredible job that was by Keith Carter getting Lane Kiffin to Oxford. And I mean, the success he's had since he stepped on campus here in Oxford.
Yeah, I think I don't think anybody can say that the program is not in a better position than it was 4 years ago. Obviously, with with the way things were with Matt Luke. But yeah, I mean, I still think that there's room to grow. That's the crazy part, right? Because there's still some critiques that you can make about Kiffin in terms of that big signature win. Maybe that comes this later this month in the Peach Bowl. But the fact that he's got us on the map nationally in national conversations, whether it's transfer portal or, potential playoff, especially if it was a 12-team playoff this year, we would be in it. Yeah, he's done a fantastic job. He's kept the team relevant. He stays relevant, being active on Twitter. It's been one of the better hires, at least in recent memory from an Ole Miss perspective, for sure.
In our lifetime, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like I remember it we were already in Oxford. We'd been in Oxford for a few years. And like, I remember people being on the tarmac at the airport when he got there, and like he was literally kissing babies, right? Like somebody handed him a baby and he's holding it. It was kind of wild to think of that hoopla. But looking back on it 4 years ago, like that started the excitement. Like that was where the excitement began to start around the football program, and then the baseball program, and then the now the basketball program with Chris Beard. That was like the catalyst almost, was that Kiffin hire. And man, him on Twitter, me,
so
I can't get enough of it. Like he has his like I'll criticize him too, like the way he handled the Alabama stuff with all that talking, and then laid an egg. Like, okay, you can't do that. But man, I do love the talking and the trolling, and just like, and it's not just him, it's Golding too, right? We saw somebody posted him, and it was a fish, right? A big fish. We all know what that means. He landed a big fish. But he didn't say, he said it without saying it. And I love the way that they use social media for the fan base. It's great.
I'm pretty sure that the only thing Pete Golding has ever tweeted since he accepted the Ole Miss job is just that shark emoji. That's all he ever does on there. Yeah, that's if you go back, it is nothing but shark emojis on his account since he's been hired. The only thing he uses it for, but now he's known for it, and it's actually become a brand, though. That's something that Kiffin and this staff and this program's gotten really good at, is building the Ole Miss brand to make them nationally relevant. Kind of like you said a second ago, Chad. I think if you asked 100 college football writers to predict the 12-team playoff next year, at least 50, I would guess somewhere around 65 or so, would put Ole Miss as one of the 12. I mean, we're at the forefront of not just people in this area, but across the country because of what Lane Kiffin has done. And that first year he was here was that COVID year, right? It was real weird. He played 10 conference games or something, whatever that ended up being. But his 2 regular years, if you want to call, or 3 regular years, if you want to call them that, he's gone to 2 access bowls, and he's won 10 games twice in the regular season. And, he didn't walk into a program where the cupboard was bare, but he has really stocked it a lot more full than it was when he got here. Now, he had quarterback to get it going. He had Elijah Moore to get it going, to kind of get the ball rolling for him. And then people are just attracted to that. And, like I said, that culminates this year, another 10-2 year. Gets back to the Peach Bowl. Not a lot of fond memories for Ole Miss fans the last time we were there. But, I feel a little bit better about this. I don't think Penn State's going to feel near as snubbed as TCU did back in 2014, I think it was.
Well, and one thing, too, before we get too far away from Kiffin, is I think something that doesn't get talked about or recognized enough is how he has kind of ignited the culture here at Ole Miss, but he's done it in such a positive way for the state of Mississippi, unlike we've had previous coaches with our rivals, like Mullen, right? He tried the T-Sun thing, the school up north. He wouldn't say Ole Miss. He wouldn't say this. Like, to me, that's the wrong way to do it. Like, that's putting hate and stuff in the rivalry. The way Kiffin has done it is like, hey, come to Mississippi. Everybody knows what come to the SIP is. Everybody knows what party in the SIP is. That means you're coming to Ole Miss, right? But he's not disrespecting the other school by doing it. And I appreciate him doing it that way. And I don't think it gets recognized enough.
One thing that I'll add, and I was thinking about parallels between him and Freeze, right? Because we had similar, at least similar heights to what we had with Kiffin. And it feels like Kiffin has a stronger foundation. I don't know, looking back on it, now granted, NIL was not a thing with Hugh Freeze, but it did feel like, when is this thing going to crumble? And, start thinking about the coordinator hires that he started making, and, whether it was fair or not.
That's what I'm saying, Chad.
Yeah. And then and the recruiting was, hey, we get to say fuck you to everybody, but we know what's going on. But granted, NIL's in place now. It just feels like it is a more stable model that we're in that can continue going. God forbid if Lane Kiffin leaves, a model for success has been established at Ole Miss that I think will carry over to the next administration whenever that happens.
Right. Well, it's the definition of the word, a program, right?
Yeah.
Like he's instituted a program, and that's what a program should do. It should put out stellar athletes and things like that, but we should also have people coming after our coordinators, like, and our head coach. And if our head coach leaves, we have someone in place that could step up, or we go out and we make another big hire that comes into this program, right, and keeps it going. So that's a great point, Chad. I don't even think I thought about it like that.
Yeah, it really is a great point. The foundation is a lot better here with Lane here.
Keep pants on.
Please do that. But yeah, I do think it's a great point. It's a great foundation that he has here. He does a really good job of going out and getting guys. He's laid out a blueprint of how to win here at Ole Miss, and kind of like you were talking about with Lane, the NIL and everything is legal now, right? As opposed to back then. And I think that it is pretty apparent that Ole Miss is a place you could have always won at. Back then, when we were doing it, we pissed so many people off because we just weren't supposed to be swimming in those waters, right? And now there's nothing they can do about it. We've always had money. We've always tried to spend money. In some occasions, we did spend money, right? But back then, if the wrong people talked and you pissed off the wrong people, it got you put on probation and it set you back, anywhere from 3 to 5 years. They can't do that anymore because NIL is legal. We can pay these players, and it shows that this fan base, this alumni base, they can step up and they can do what's necessary to not only run a football program, run a baseball program, 2 years removed from a national championship right now. And then they go out and they hire, for my money, the best coach in the entire country in basketball, and Chris Beard. He's won everywhere he's gone. It'll be interesting as the years go on to see how you're able to maintain 3 major sports, because we have 3 of the best coaches in the entire country at the 3 major sports sitting right now in Oxford, Mississippi.
That's what I like about NIL is, in the past when you had bagmen or whatever, how can I, someone that doesn't have a ton of money, how can I contribute to that, right? I can't. I don't really know who the bagmen are. But with NIL, you can donate $20 a month, right? And while it's not, the 15, 10,000s, whatever other people are giving, that adds up, especially when you've got a lot of people that are giving those small donations. That adds up. And I think it's so much more accessible now to feel like, hey, I'm participating and I'm helping build this program than the way it was prior to NIL.
And nobody knows really what you get. You gave $20 a month, right? Like, you don't have to say that. You can say and it makes you feel like you're participating.
Absolutely.
Like it gives you that sense of Blake gets on to me all the time because I say we, and it doesn't matter who I'm talking. I'm talking about the Rebels, or I'm talking about the Braves. Whoever I'm talking about, I say we, and she's like, you're not part of the team. Right. But this gives you that false, camaraderie of being, hey, I can say we because I am 50
I'm paying for it.
$20 worth of quick shot.
Yeah. It's coming out of my bank account every single month. I'm a part of this now. And speaking of which, if y'all want to contribute to the Growth Collective, now would be a great time. Transfer portal's wide open.
Venmo is in the dugout, and we'll make sure it gets there.
Yes, I will make sure to put it there personally. I have to take out my 20% charge. And then, but Lane's flying all over the country right now, him and his assistants. They're doing an incredible job in the transfer portal. They're out there. They know next year is a year, and I think it's a year they've been looking forward to for quite a while, quite honestly, with the players
just the way
they have
he
on roster coming back.
And does that, just the way that he lets people know where he's at and who he's looking at. I mean, it's brilliant the way that he does it. It's great.
But it's always about being in the spotlight too. He has built this brand. He gets people talking about Ole Miss, and that's why we are always at the forefront of people's minds. Whether you're from here or from Wyoming,
I would guess,
and because of Lane Kiffin.
And Dids, I'm gonna put you on this. Reach out to Elon and see. I want to know all of the college football head coaches, how many people that's not a fan of that team follow that head coach. I bet Lane Kiffin leads the pack on that.
Okay, yeah. It's as soon as we get done here tonight, I'll make a call and I'll
just type up an email and send it off. Okay.
Well, no, I'm just gonna pick up the phone and call. That way.
Oh, okay, cool.
And then hopefully I'll have an answer for y'all next week when we end up doing our next show. But kind of like I was saying with NIL, now's a great time. Great things happen with the football program, transfer portal. Chris Beard's off to a really hot start with this basketball team. They're playing really well right now. And obviously Mike Bianco and the baseball team coming up here in just a few short months. So if anybody wants to contribute to the Growth Collective, you can go to thegrowthcollective.com and you can contribute whatever you want to. Like Chad said, it doesn't matter. You don't have to do the $1,000, $5,000, $10,000 donation. Do something you can afford. $20 a month, $30 a month, whatever. Anything helps at this point because we're in waters nationally, especially with the football program that we haven't been in a very, very long time. And this coming up here in 2024, the guys that we have coming back to Oxford, I think it is a strike while the iron's hot kind of situation for this particular class in this offseason. So now would be a good time to donate to the Growth Collective, contribute to the Growth Collective. Let's get that number up. That way we can get the, Walter Nolan's of the world. That's been a hot name in the transfer portal right now, right? Would love to see him in the red and blue come next year. So if you hadn't already, go to thegrowthcollective.com, set you up the payment plan, whether it's monthly, yearly. Let's contribute, get these guys the resources they need to so we can compete on a national level. I think I told y'all in the group chat this weekend maybe that, ever since Ole Miss won that national title in baseball back in 2022, it's my expectation now. Like not only with baseball, I want to taste it with every single sport, Right now we're going to the Peach Bowl. Huge accomplishment. Went 10-2, great year. But I can't take my eyes off of next year and what it can mean with this 12-team playoff coming up. I want to be able to win a national championship in football. I want to be good enough to win a national championship in basketball. Already done it in baseball, like we've said, and I think we have the coaches in place to do it. What are kind of y'all's thoughts about us going to the Peach Bowl this year, though? Is it a big deal that we're going to another New Year's Six Bowl, or is it kind of get through it, don't get hurt, and let's get to 2024? Because that's kind of where I'm at. Get through it. If we win, great. Stay healthy and get 2024.
I think so it depends on the perspective, right? From a Ole Miss fans perspective, I personally haven't really cared about most of the bowl games for a few years now, just because they don't, in my opinion, mean anything. But
unless you're in the playoffs, that's it.
Yeah. So, but from the college football universe, I think it is a big deal because that's still how every other team is measured, right? It's not just the 4 that make the playoffs. So people do at least reference how many access bowls you've made, what bowls you're making, because that is a sign of how healthy a program is, right?
Well, we've done it. We're just talking. Yeah. Like we did it with Kiffin. We were like, he's made this many access bowls.
Yeah,
100%.
So I think it's a big deal because of what it says about the program. But in terms of the game itself, I am excited to watch this game because I think this is going to be another way of seeing where we need help as a football program, because much like Georgia, Penn State has a top 10 pick on both sides of the football on the line, offensive line and defensive line. And I think that's where we've got to attack the transfer portal, because I think that was our biggest deficiency this year. And seeing that again is going to hope people see that if we're going to be successful the way we want to be successful, this is where we have to invest our money, and this is where we have to put the most effort in, because this is what wins you football games when you're trying to get into this playoff.
Yeah, now, all of the quarterbacks and the running backs and the receivers and those key positions, those are great to have. Because those are the athletes who are going to score the points and who are going to keep the other team off the scoreboard. Those big guys there on the line aren't as sexy, aren't as flashy. And sometimes we forget, or the average fan may forget, that we also have to invest there. Or those guys who are getting the ball aren't going to have a chance.
Right.
Yeah.
Look at Georgia. Look at the Georgia game.
Yeah, exactly. You're really in trouble if you end up struggling at the line of scrimmage. what people need to realize, and I know a lot of people do, not trying to say people are idiots here, but there are two places in a football game where you get hit literally every single play. Offensive line, defensive line. That's where you can make the most or cause the most chaos every single play on those two sides of the ball. That's why you need to be good in the trenches. That's why Georgia's so good. That's why Alabama's on this crazy, damn near 20-year run that they're on right now. It's almost spanned 2 decades now. And Georgia's built the same thing. Look at Michigan. That's what they do. That's what Harbaugh's built down there. The lines of scrimmage are so good. And, hell, look at Penn State. They do the same thing. If they had a quarterback and some skill guys, yeah, they would be, up there with the top teams in the country. But even as bad of quarterback plays they've gotten this year, which I think Aller has been terrible myself. I've watched him play several times. Don't think he's any good at all. But they beat the hell out of you up front on both sides of the ball. And when they want to, they can just sit there and grind it out on the offensive side, run the ball right at you. And when your offensive line is as good as those kinds of teams are, Alabama, Georgia, Michigan, hell, you saw it with Michigan going up against Penn State. As good as Penn State's defense is, Michigan came out with a 1-score lead. It's not like they were blowing them out. And they did not throw a pass the entire second half. They let their offensive line win the entire game for them that entire second half, and then just put their defense back out there because they knew they couldn't do anything against it. I think that's one thing that Kiffin and Golding have really focused in on. If you look at the high school class, they have brought in a ton of really, really highly rated defensive linemen. If they end up signing here in 12 days, signing days December 20th. But they're going around the transfer portal, and they're still trying to get other defensive linemen that have hopped in there because you've got to have that depth. You got to have them ready to play now, and you've got to have more than 4 of them. They can't play all game, right? I mean, you want these guys to, split snaps 50-50 if you can. That way, when you get down later part of third quarter, fourth quarter, you've got fresh guys in there that are going to take over a game. And I think that's one area Kiffin and his staff. I'm not going to point out Golding specifically because I see it a lot on the offensive side of the ball, too. Went real heavy high school recruiting last year. I think so far I've only seen one offensive lineman jump in the portal from Ole Miss, Cedric Melton. I saw that earlier today here on Friday. But they're also looking at, guys in the portal to come in, too, though. They went and saw that offensive tackle out of Indiana that was so good. He was an all Big Ten player up there with the Hoosiers. Would imagine that with all of the talk in College Station, they went and saw that guard was a freshman All-American, started all 12 games for A&M too. That was really good. So I think that's kind of the way this team is kind of looking to shift a little bit in this transfer portal season.
Yeah, I agree with you, and it's interesting to see how that money gets allocated too. We heard a lot about how last year we were spending so much on quarterbacks, which I still question, but hey, we got to where we are now. You raised an interesting question to us last night about how much certain players should be paid. What was that exact question again?
Yeah, it was basically how you allocate your NIL money throughout your roster, right? NFL teams, Major League Baseball teams, all these professional teams, they have a certain budget. They have this much money they got to spend. And a lot of them go down through there and pick, I'm going to spend this much at this position, this much at this position, and try not to go over it. And now one of the things you keep hearing with Ole Miss leading into the transfer portal season is if you end up having to make a choice with Quinshon Judkins, how much do you spend on a running back as opposed to the rest of the team? Now, obviously, if you have enough money to go around and you can, give everybody, fine. But if you get into a numbers crunch, is running back one of those places you kind of pull back on a little bit and try to build out from there all the way around?
Absolutely not. I don't care if that's the feature of your offense, because if you have a good enough offensive line, I don't care. You can put, not almost anyone, but you can put someone not as good as a Quinshon Judkins there, and you're going to get similar type of production. It's kind of the same model the NFL's following, right? And running back is no longer as strong of a feature on people's offenses. They don't get paid as much because you can put a stable, 2 or 3 guys that are capable of getting through a hole, and you can still be successful. So as great as Quinshon Judkins is, and I want him to get his money, don't get me wrong.
He is great. Let's make sure
he's
that
great.
Everybody that's listening to this understands. We're not trying to run off Quinshon Judkins. He's awesome. Best running back in the country. Would love him to be here next year.
Yes, you just cannot allocate. Now, once again, I don't know how much we have in NIL funds. You cannot allocate more to him that's going to make positions that are going to help him deficient, right? If it's going to hurt the offensive line, it's not helping Quinshon Judkins.
No. Yeah. No, and you kind of saw that a little bit earlier this year too, when the offensive line was such a mess earlier in the year. Now they got a lot better. Quinshon started running a lot better too. I think I had to have been an injury, something like that, but he didn't have that same burst that he normally had last year that we saw, and that we saw at the end of the year this year. I think he really came on at the end of the year, but I think the offensive line gelled a little bit at the end of the year too. So no, I totally agree with you. We've got to have. I think you start from the inside out. You know, you hear that the NFL teams all the time: offensive line, defensive line. Then you start going out from there, right? I absolutely think that's the way to do it. And I love Quinshon Judkins. I think he's the best running back in the entire country. And get all the money you can get while you're here, man. All for it.
Now, I will say,
within reason.
I will say, you know, it is quarterback is still the most important position, but we already have that covered, right? Yes. So, but yeah, if you have a quarterback in place, you have to focus on those lines. Those are so important.
Yeah. As much as I'd love to disagree with y'all,
you can.
I can on this. I mean, it makes so much sense. And we hit on it earlier talking about Kiffin and this and Did's kind of bringing in the pro game into it, and that's kind of what Kiffin's always said is I run this team like an NFL team, and the budget I'm sure is part of that, right? Like I'm sure that he has a number in mind or on paper, whatever that is. They meet at the beginning of the year, whatever, and say we're going to spend this on this, and that's that program we were talking about putting in place that if somebody has to, they can step right in and keep it going.
Yeah, that's one thing that Lane Milne's been really good at, though, is finding really good talent, though. You know, Quinshon wasn't highly recruited coming out of high school. Everybody knows his story, and Lane Kiffin just had to have him, and he knew what he saw, and he's been worth every single penny he's made off of Ole Miss so far, including this year. You know, I'm sure he reworked his deal after his huge freshman year, and I'm sure he's trying to rework his deal now. And if he is, I hope he gets every penny he can get. As long as it's in an Ole Miss Rebel uniform, though, because I want him back very, very badly, because you can tell that they are really trying to build those lines, and I think the lines would really benefit Quinshon coming back next year if we can add a couple pieces of that offensive line. So I just thought that was an interesting thought exercise, though, right? You know, just how you're going to build it and who you give your money to. I heard earlier this week, I think it was Tyler Siskey that had brought it up. He said that if he ever got back into coaching, he would never sign a high school quarterback again. Yeah. And initially, I thought how insane that sounded. But then you think about it. If you sign a high school quarterback, number one player in the country, whatever, right? Well, you're going to have to give him a big NIL deal. Every single year after that, he has leverage against you to up that NIL deal because he has the transfer in his back pocket. So if he's that good, you don't want to lose him. Or look what Ole Miss did. They went, got a freshman, Jackson Dart from USC, and he was locked in to the Lane Kiffin system for 2 years unless he just wanted to go sit out a year somewhere.
Well,
so I think that's a really interesting way of thinking about the quarterback market in particular, as expensive as they are right now from everybody talking about the kind of price tags these guys are running in this transfer portal.
Okay. Well, with that thought, what about this? The group of five, I guess, they become the minor leagues for the Power Five, right? Like that's where the high school kids go for 2 years. They become JUCO, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
Or you know what I'm saying, like, and then transfer in. Wow.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, because, I mean, let's be honest, this is going to be a question that we probably can't answer quickly, but when's the last time like a true freshman at quarterback has had such a massive impact? Maybe Jameis Winston. It doesn't happen very often. So I think that's a great point. Why would I invest that to a guy that's probably not going to help my team right away? Let me spend it on a guy that's proven. He's been in the college game. He at least knows the routine a little bit. I think that makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah.
And good luck convincing an 18-year-old kid to come and in 2 years you'll get your money.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Just sit and wait your turn. It'll be fine. But kind of piggybacking off of Hitch's thought with the group of five there, I think that's why you've seen so many group of five teams perform so well here through these last couple of years. They're getting in on high school kids that they never had a shot at before, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because all of these roster spots are getting taken up by guys in the transfer portal. They're going to a group of five. They're getting developed there for a year or two. When they show that they can dominate it, well, then you've got all these Power 5 schools and their Power 4, Power 3, whatever the hell we are now, calling and saying, hey, come up here, play at this level, prove you can do it here, and then you're going to be a high NFL draft pick, right? They want to put that on film. So it kind of sucks for the group of five at the same time, but it does have a trickle-down effect where it benefits them too, because they're getting in on guys in high school that I don't think they ever had a chance at before, and it's kind of raising the bar for them a little bit.
Yeah.
So
I think all this going to be spread around is good for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right, last thing we're going to touch on, guys. I did not expect the Ole Miss Rebels to be the last remaining undefeated basketball team in the SEC.
I did not.
Right?
Chris Beard's
done an incredible job. Yeah, he's done a hell of a job. We got a big game coming up Sunday at Central Florida. That's one that Ole Miss can win. Obviously, they can obviously lose. Central Florida's not a bad team, but it's one if you're able to get that win, it's one that's going to look a hell of a lot better in February, March when you start getting into conference play than it does right now, because they are going to go through an absolute gauntlet in the Big Ten. And regardless if they win or lose those games, that net rating is going to keep going up just based on the teams that they're playing. So it's a really big opportunity for Ole Miss Sundays to stay undefeated, get this win on the road. I think by the end of the year, if you get this win, it's going to end up being a quad 1 win for you, which it's way too early to talk about, but it could be really big from a committee standpoint, and resume standpoint. But Beard's done a really good job. Murray's played well for us. Flanagan's been out of his mind for us. Morrell has really come around.
Cisse is a damn body. He is
right.
Man.
Yeah. He's come in, and I think Cisse is going to be a really big part to this team here. Just kind of y'all's brief thoughts of the early Chris Beard era so far. Impressed, kind of exceeded expectations, I would assume.
Yeah, absolutely. You hear about how tenacious his teams are, especially on the defensive end, and that's definitely come through. Offensively, and I think he would probably admit that they probably aren't exactly where he wants them, just because that's been a struggle at times. And they've played a lot of close games against, they've played two okay teams. NC State, Memphis is pretty good. They beat them both. They were both at home. We still don't know exactly where we are yet, because that SEC slate is coming, and it's going to be tough. But yeah, if you would have told me that we were undefeated midway through December, I'd been like, "Are you serious?" Yeah, I'll take that. So this is miles ahead of where I thought we'd be, considering what was left to him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think he's done, or they've done a good job of improving. As the year is gone, I think when we first talked about this a few weeks ago, I talked about the shooting and how bad it was, and hoping, hey, this is rust, nerves, whatever. That hopefully that's the case. They're shooting, a lot better. And I was watching that game against Memphis the other night, and I don't remember who it was commentating or announcing, but they kept saying that Beard is a downhill guy. Like every play he has starts with a downhill drive to the rim, whether it's a try to finish there, kick, whatever it is. And I really noticed that against Memphis. I hadn't noticed that so much previously in the, 3 or 4 or 5 games I've watched. It's been a lot of one-on-one and then a lot of three ball, just dribbling and shooting threes.
Contested shot.
The Memphis game looked a lot more offensively geared to that downhill, attack downhill, and then, either give it up or whatever the case may be when you get there. And so I liked seeing that. That was good. And that was a big win against Memphis. I mean, that was a game. Memphis may not be great. They're good, but they're a
fringe tourney. They're an at-large tourney team, or at least close to it. Bubble team.
It's something to put on the resume that's going to look good no matter what by the time the year's over with.
Absolutely, yeah. So I'm impressed with what Beard's done, and I hope he keeps it going. I know that we're not going to go undefeated, because you said that SEC schedule is going to be tough. UCF will be a challenge Sunday, right? Mm-hmm. I think that was the game last year. We maybe got down big. We made a comeback, and then they ended up beating us. I can't remember, but yeah, we're going to have to come out and play.
Yeah. That SEC slate, it comes at you real fast. First SEC game, you go to Knoxville to play Tennessee, and you get checked pretty quick when you roll into that place. That's a really good team. Yeah. But yeah, I'm right there with you though, Hitch. I didn't really notice it either until he had talked about Chris Beard's teams being downhill attacking basket teams, right? And then when you think about to the earlier games, that was a lot of, like you said, one-on-one, a lot of contested shots, especially from three. But we're getting to the basket.
And Flanagan's good at that, right? Like Flanagan
is really good.
Flanagan holds the advantage with that kind of offense because he is so long, and he's a matchup nightmare because he can handle the ball. Murray is good with this offense as well because he can get to the basket like that. He can
and he doesn't turn the ball over. That's the thing.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He needs to make better decisions.
4-to-1 turnover to assist or assist turnover ratio, something like that. I mean,
it's not great.
Yeah, I mean,
he gets to the basket. Really good at protecting over when he gets there. Yeah. If he can, kick it, whatever. But he gets to the basket, so that's great. But Flanagan, he can put his back to the basket and score. He can take you off the dribble and score. He can shoot, get fouled. So the offense is kind of running through Flanagan, which I don't think is a surprise to any of us. And then you've got Morrell out there shooting, and TJ has played really well and shot the ball better the past couple of games. So you get him coming off that great freshman year he had last year, get him going, and I think we're going to exceed expectations.
Yeah, TJ was one of the guys I was going to bring up because that's one of the guys that I've been impressed with coming off the bench. I mean, he gives you a little bit of a spark, and that's really all you need from him. Morrell, he's kind of settled into not being this huge playmaker. He's a catch and shoot guy, and when Murray gets going downhill, when Flanagan's getting to the basket, that opens up Morrell to just be a catch and shoot guy. And you saw that against Memphis. I think he was like 7 for 11 from 3 or something like that, or 6 for 11. Shot it really, really well, and then he did it again the other night against Mount St. Mary's. We really need him to be that guy. And Cisse coming back, you got 2 7-footers there anchoring the paint, right, with him and Sharp. Sharp's played really well too.
He's got 20 blocks.
Yeah, he leads the SEC if I'm not mistaken.
20 blocks already. It's nuts.
Yeah. He's 7'5". So if this was NBA Jam, then he would have like 150 because goaltending wouldn't be a thing. But unfortunately, it's not. It's NCAA basketball. NCAA sucks, and they're all about not having any fun. But whatever, we'll just play by the rules, I guess. So, Brandon Murray, there's been a little bit of talk about him possibly getting eligible. Would obviously be a huge boost to this team to get another guard, and everybody seems to think he's a difference maker. He's played at LSU, Georgetown. I don't know a whole lot about him. I'm not, a super big basketball guy. I sit down and I'll watch it all day on a Saturday when football's over with or whatever. But, that seems to be a real big one for us, though. Seems to be a little bit of optimism. I'll believe it when I see it. But, if we end up getting him back, then who knows where this team can go. We could really challenge for a NCAA tournament berth. And that would be one hell of an accomplishment.
Yeah.
For Chris Beard,
Year one.
what he had.
That would be more impressive than what we did in football this year. Not to take anything
Yeah.
away from the football team, but they had a much bigger, better foundation.
So, yeah, absolutely. So, hopefully that comes to fruition. Basketball team's rolling. Remember, Sunday, I Bleav it's at 3:00 Central Time. It's at Central Florida. You can watch it on ESPN Plus. Everybody tune in there. Again, huge time for Ole Miss athletics. If you're a Rebel fan and you haven't already, go give to the Grove Collective if you can. Let's build that thing up. Let's give these coaches the chance to be among the elite in the entire country, because they're putting in their work. The student athletes are putting in their work. Now it's time for us to make sure we're doing our part to get these guys to campus, because make no mistake about it, 99% of all decisions are going to come down to NIL. And good for these kids that are getting all the bags too, because there was some, all these years before this that didn't get anywhere close to this money, and it's about time that they end up getting a share of all the money that they're making these universities. So keep giving to the Grove Collective, keep building this thing up. Me, Chad, and Hitch will go ahead and wrap it up here. We will see you next week, though, and hopefully have a lot of good news in the transfer portal, recruiting trail, stuff like that. And the Rebels on the march, hopefully still undefeated in basketball. That's the big one right now. That's where we're focused. So appreciate everybody that tuned in. And, guys, hope y'all have a good one. We'll talk to y'all next week.
Appreciate it, guys. See you later.
See you guys.